Welcome to the after party for Should I Wish Someone Told Me. We are doing this as a supplement to the conversation that Hannah and I had on Monday, which was for this week's episode, Told Me, where we talked about toxic diet culture. And so we're going to be recapping the episode, talking about what you had to say this week regarding the topic and answering some questions because y'all had them. And Hannah is here, so thank you, ma'am. Good to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you. Glad that you are well. You got your nails did for this occasion.
Yes,
Look
just
at
for
them. Just for
Yes.
this. I love.
Yeah.
So, really quick before we dive in, I do just want to note two quick housekeeping items. So first of all, you do not have to keep it clean. The episode is called, or this whole series is called Shit I Wish. So that's A-okay. However, you do have to keep it kind. So be nice. And if you have a question that you haven't previously asked in the polls this week, then use the little bubble down next to where the comment section is with the question mark inside so that we can bring it up on the screen and show everyone. But other than that, that's it. So let's go ahead and talk. Since Hannah is here and we're ready to go, would you start us off with a recap of what some highlights were from our conversation and just kind of like an overview of what we talked about this week?
Yeah. I feel like highlights were just, again, just kind of summarizing the effects of toxic diet culture, why we're here, but just really talking about like the core issue as to why people engage in such toxic diet culture or dieting fads.
Yeah.
This is just like innate pressure from society's standpoint to change our bodies into this societal standard of what is perfect, what is ideal for women or men. And just the industry as a whole, the dieting industry as a whole, it's not really your friend. It's not really something that's set up for success for people. It's really just out there to get your money. It's out there to make a quick fix on something that is not meant for you to, lose. You're not meant to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks or 20 pounds in a month. Like, our bodies are totally different. Our bodies are so different from one another. And I just think that toxic diet culture as a whole just really impacts the way that we see ourselves and the way that we love ourselves, and understanding our bodies and understanding how our bodies need different things at different times in our lives. And just really just that pressure even on children and teenagers and young adults to engage in that kind of behavior because they think that, I'm speaking for myself, like I thought that was normal. I thought that was what I had to do in order to look like everybody around me. So, that's in a nutshell some of the big takeaways. It's just this pressure that we feel that we have to put on ourselves, and just how much bullshit dieting culture is, in my opinion. It took me a while to get to that summarization, but here we are.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing all that. I feel like you did sum it up really beautifully because we talked about a lot, and this is a big topic. Like, this isn't something that it's just like, oh, well, it's just this. Like, it permeates our society. And we talk about that a lot in the episode itself, and like different ways that it showed up in our personal lives and how we've seen it show up in society. And so I think that this is something, and this was evident in what everyone shared this week in the polls, that at some point or another, it's impacted everyone in some way, shape, or form. Like, we've all had thoughts about it, and it's something that, like you said, it's something that I think most of us were sold, like, this is the way it should be type of a thing. And we are conditioned from like the get to just think that like that's what life is. And so it's really this process of unlearning kind of like what the expectation is and learning like what the truth is, like for us as individuals, like for you, like listening to watching, like universal you, for like everyone, like you personally. And one of the things that we usually talk about on the after parties is how this topic has showed up within the week, since this has kind of been on the forefront of our minds. And so I want to hear if you have any insights. But for me, I'm like, this is kind of something that's always in the forefront of my mind. So I honestly can't say that there were any epiphanies like, oh, right, kind of a thing. It was more of just a like, well, that's an example type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I talk a lot about how I don't want people to think, especially me talking about toxic diet culture means that I have like completely healed from that mindset. That's definitely not the case for me because even this week, I like weighed myself one morning because I was like, I feel large, I feel big, I feel like I need to weigh myself and see how much weight I've gained recently. And I did weigh myself, and then immediately my mind went, okay, what diet should I go on? And I was like, oh damn, we just thought I just was preaching to everybody about this, and then here's my it's just. But I also have to give myself a lot of grace because I've always thought like that. I have
Yeah.
always thought about how can I change my body? What diet should I go on? What should I do? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to eat healthier, move more. It's more just like when my mind goes to, okay, restrict your calories, drop your calories down, go ahead and cut out bread, go ahead and cut out this. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have moderation on things, especially if you are looking at it from a standpoint of what makes me feel good, what does my body not respond well to. But I could tell that I have to really consciously catch myself, and it happens a lot. It happens pretty much almost like every day, to be honest, because I sometimes like I don't know if I'll ever be able to give up like completely tracking my foods. And the only reason I do is because I try not to give food such a huge control over my life because I have done that in the past when I was engaging in some fad dieting, like when I was doing keto and I was tracking and measuring every little thing and it was exhaustive. Like it's just an exhausting process to do that and also just really maybe not have good relationships with people around me. But I still do that to this day, but I have to come at it from a way of like, I'm just really trying to make sure like see what foods I'm eating and how my body responds to those foods. Do they feel good? Does my body, am I feeling sluggish after I eat this? Am I feeling more energetic? Because I do work out. Like this week, I work out 3 to 4 times a week, and I know if I don't eat the proper foods, my body's not going to feel good. So I have to track it, but I can't. I have to be mindful of not letting myself get too overly obsessive about the foods that I'm eating and where I want to start to restrict and start to really engage in those toxic dieting behaviors and getting mad at myself and getting mad at my willpower and my determination and my grind or whatever it may be. I have to give myself a lot of grace on that. I mean, that's kind of even this week has shown up for me. And that's probably, to be honest, like a weekly occurrence because I feel like toxic dieting culture, if it's ingrained anything in my brain, is like, well, I can always start Monday, just the cycle. The cycle of wanting to always start Monday. And I have to like get away from that too, because if I if I eat a meal that maybe is a little bit more indulgent than I usually do, it's okay. That's just a part of life. That's just a part of balance. That's just a part of being human, is enjoying yourself and enjoying the life that you are living, and just creating that balance of food, exercise, and loving yourself and loving who you are and not feeling like you need to change everything about you all the time.
Yes. I want to
long-winded.
I was going to say, I want to point out that I really appreciate your vulnerability because, and I said that on the episode as well, but like, these are things that I think a lot of people have, like thoughts that a lot of people have, but that we either don't consciously recognize them for being a product of toxic diet culture. We just think that, like I said, it's like conditioned, like it's ingrained in us. We just think that like, well, that's just the way I think, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Or we feel some kind of way about admitting, oh, well, actually, I think this could be a result of my negative relationship that I have with food and my body. And so I appreciate that you started off with saying, it's something that you're still working on, and that you were able to like give us examples with that, because I think that that's relatable. Like, I think that like a lot of us, and I find myself as someone who was also like, this is bullshit, like toxic diet culture. I find myself doing things where I remember, so this is like a longer like trait that I've had. I remember reading one time that whenever women are in a certain phase in their cycle, that we burn more calories. And I'm like, oh, sweet. That's going to be like, that's good. Like I'll lose weight then. Right.
Yeah.
But like fast forward years later, I'm like, bitch, that's because your body is doing things and it needs those calories to complete those processes. And so you should actually give yourself more food during that time to balance it out because you're actually burning more. And so it's something where I will still at times catch myself being like, why am I so hungry? And having to be mindful of the fact like, oh, your workout today was more cardio than you're used to, or it was like, you know, more weightlifting, or like it's a conscious effort to take a step back and listen to my body and be like, oh, that's right. I should probably, maybe it's that part of my cycle. I should give myself these calories instead of trying to feel like, oh God, like what's wrong with me? Why am I so hungry? Instead, I should have a better relationship with myself. And that's been an active practice to like tune in and say like, okay, like why am I hungry? And then it's like, oh, right, you ran 2 miles and you usually like cap out at 400 meters. So that could be why.
I mean, you know, and we've talked about like how much, it's just so crazy to me. I was doing some research prior to like when we got some results back from our poll, which I guess we talk about that, like some of the research that I was doing.
I'm so excited for this.
Overall, it's just so crazy how much, and like I'm guilty, and I still sometimes like, oh yeah, that seems like, but you have to recognize what is a part of that toxic dieting culture. But sometimes it's so hard to discern because if you're not in it and you don't understand it and you don't understand the mechanics of what the food you're eating, if you don't understand the mechanics of how to work your body or like what it is, like we are just very conditioned in our society to get quick fixes and buy things that say lose 10 pounds in 1 week drinking this smoothie. And I'm like, I know for a fact that I believed in that. And they just like get you with they make it look like it's scientifically valid. But until you go a deep dive in research, but who has the time to deep dive and research every tiny little thing? You just it's just fad diets and these toxic dieting habits. Rarely, I don't think I've seen anything that's like empirically valid. I don't think I've seen anything where it's like the science is like, yeah, this works. But we just think it does. It just but it's very ingrained in history. So it's a cultural thing. It's not just like a health thing. It's a cultural thing. And it's hard to unlearn those behaviors when they're deeply embedded in a culture. And you know, all of that.
Yeah. And Kevin says many of the studies are fucked and skewed. You don't have to keep it clean. You can drop the F-bomb. But thank you for your.
They are skewed. They probably pick the weirdest sample size.
Yep. I was gonna say that
size. And there's just not a lot of research. And I was listening to something about this other day. There's not a lot of like studies on like women's bodies too.
Yes.
All the dieting typically are like targeted towards women. I mean, men as well, but women are typically like, oh, go on this juice cleanse for 45 days and you'll look the best you've ever looked, but also you'll become malnourished, you know? So.
Yeah. I read like, so yes, to the studies, that is some shit that someone told me. We talked about this on another episode. I don't remember which one it was, but I like to say this as many times as I can. Whenever people come at you with these studies, you have to, like you mentioned, and thank you for doing that, you have to look at the control group. Because if I want the results to, you know, if I want the results to say a certain thing as a researcher, I can find a control group that has a higher probability of proving me to be right. Yeah. And so it's kind of confirmation bias.
It's got to be peer reviewed. It's got to go through the whole entire process of being actually, you know, is it going to have the validity that you need it to be? If it's a truly experimental design, if it's a true experiment, it should be a randomized control group and randomized selection of people in the study. But that's not always the case. And it's, you know, but that's just research in general, which it can be a whole nother topic, I'm sure. But if you don't know these things, it's hard because you believe we are influxed with a lot of information.
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff. And it's hard to discern what is true, what is not.
Yep.
And even doctors, and I'm not saying like, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical guru, but even doctors have probably prescribed to this toxic dieting culture. And I think it's shifting, but it's unless you're a nutritionist or a dietitian who truly studies food and it's how it works with our body. So yeah. Like you said, bread is bad. Like, yeah, there's doctors that are like, you should, I have heard it firsthand from a doctor multiple times when I've gone to a doctor about a completely different topic of my health that is not related to my weight, and they say, like when I went to a dermatologist and they gave me a list of my skin is really good. I just went just to, he gave me a list of foods not to eat. I was like, I came here to just get my freckles checked out. I have a lot of freckles. I don't know why you're giving me a list of foods. It looked like a toxic diet is what it looked like. I was like, no.
Yeah, I've seen Hannah in person, which is, I haven't seen a lot of my guests, but yeah, I've seen Hannah in person. She does have amazing skin, so there's that. But yeah, like, thank you for pointing that out again, or not again, but also for pointing that out, because
it's my first.
I think, it's fine. I think that we are taught institutionalized learning to just take whatever's given to us as like the gospel, and we're not actually taught how to, critically think a lot of times. And I mean, that's a whole ass another thing. But I think that, is what we're talking about in terms of people taking like, this study, like this, diet, like taking that as the gospel is a result of that. And yeah, like Kevin was saying, that there's, a doctor that does short bits tearing claims down, like all bread is bad, carbs are evil, which, throw back to the Atkins diet. We talked about that, which poll results. So we asked, because like toxic diet culture, like we've spoken, is something that it permeates our society. And, one of the problems is that it starts at such a young age. So we asked in the poll results this week, we asked in the polls, when did you first feel like you needed to change your body through dieting? And so we had 4 responses. 29% said, as long as I can remember. Another 29% said in elementary school. 21% said in high school. And then 21% said in college.
Yeah.
Like, that's early. So the majority,
like 60, almost 60% are within elementary school, and
more than 60. Yeah, 60%, nearly 6% is elementary school as long as they can remember. But like high school, like we were young in high school. Like you can't even, like you're 18 when you get out about. So like before we're 18, like we feel the need to like change our bodies through dieting. Like that's telling. Like for me personally, it wasn't, and we spoke about this in the episode, but just to share here for, since we're speaking about in terms of the poll, for me personally, it was never a stated thing, but it was like kind of an understood thing. Like my mom, and I spoke about this, was always like counting her points, or like watching her weight, or like saying she can't eat that, or saying like something to that effect. And so it wasn't something where anyone ever told me, except I think I shared this on the episode. My dad did tell me to stop drinking soft drinks because I got really addicted to Surge, which was, I guess, kind of like a Mountain Dew situation. But he told me I needed to stop drinking those whenever I was probably like 8th-ish grade, I think. But yeah, other than that, no one really said anything. My grandmother did also, when I came back from college. I didn't share this in the episode, but when I came back from college, she's like, "Oh, it looks like you didn't gain the 15." And I was like, "What?" Like, who says that? A lot of people say that kind of shit.
There's so many stories I've heard from my friends in my own life where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, my grandma saw me and she was like, you're putting on some," I'm like, goodness gracious. So it's like deeply embedded in generations, like, and I've talked about in the episode, I started dieting in the 4th grade.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that, they're like so surprised. I'm like, it is the way it is. I was literally 10. As soon as I turned 5 or 6, my body was bigger than everybody around me. But I didn't really notice that. I was like just your typical kid. And I didn't really notice that. And then until I got to about 5th grade, and I had a couple people comment on my weight. Kids they're little shits. And they were commenting, about my weight and stuff. And then I started to compare myself. And 4th grade, I guess, was when I started dieting. I started dieting in 4th grade because my doctor probably somebody said something about me being a overweight child. And like, I get it from a health standpoint, you want to look at that kind of stuff, but I don't think that kids should be engaging in any sort of like fad dieting.
Yeah.
And I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not that kind of stuff, but I definitely would say that children should not be doing the LA weight loss, doing Weight Watchers, doing these dieting things. It's okay to change their food to more, whatever it may be, more nutrient dense things, but I don't is the answer. But at the time in the early 2000s, and if you're on here and you understand the early 2000s and literally the low rise jeans, I'm like, I don't like them. But anyway, but like the really just everybody was eating just like sticks
carrots,
their food, you know, and that was like a thing, and like everybody was doing it. And so fourth grade, I was doing it, and then it just never, my body just never. And then I was like, okay, well, sixth grade, seventh grade, puberty, the baby weight will leave, right? No, it didn't. And it just kept, so another diet because I couldn't lose that weight, and then another diet, and just the cycle perpetuated until I was 24, 25 when I finally stopped dieting, you know? So
so you mentioned about kids and being on diet. So when were you, because I just want to make sure for anyone listening and watching to the after party, when were you when you had your first like meal replacement bar or diet bar or meal replacement shake or something of that nature?
Fourth grade. So LA Weight Loss was one of those like bars and kind of like the Atkins bars and like those disgusting shakes. And so that was fourth grade. I think that I've done, I think what else I've done. I've done several of them. I don't know. I can't remember most of them, but a lot of them always are rooted in like that meal replacement, drink this shake for breakfast and lunch, and then dinner you can have solid foods. Right. So, you know, no child wants to eat one of those nasty bars that who knows what's even in that bar.
And no adult wants to eat that. Like those things aren't good. Like I've had them. I had the Weight Watchers shakes. Like my mom had those. Or the Slim Fast. Slim Fast.
Yeah, those things are not good for you. And to be honest, I wonder if some of that like meal replacement, the toxic dieting, like meal replacement bars, meal replacement shakes, I wonder if those have like contributed personally to myself some of my like stomach issues. Like I deal with as an adult to this day. Because I almost got roped into one of those meal replacement things a couple years ago. So those, you know, those like Herbalife shakes? You know, like all these little stores that say so-and-so nutrition, like Winston-Salem nutrition, fun nutrition, or whatever, those little pop-up stores, they're selling Herbalife stuff, which is like a meal replacement protein shake, health, whatever. I was drinking those, and my stomach, I thought that I was going to be like, I had actually went and got blood work done, and I had my liver enzymes were like out the roof. And I researched more about that stuff, and there's articles out there that talk about this Herbalife, like protein shakes, being directly impacting people's liver enzymes. And I was like, oh, that's great. So obviously I stopped drinking those. But like just thinking about as a kid, when I would drink those, or kid or a teenager, I would some form of meal replacement shake or protein shake or things like. I'm not like crapping on protein shakes. I think it's just like you have to find the ones that are, you know, not gonna mess up your blood work, you know. So
that I didn't know that about CS Phoenix says. I didn't know that about Herbalife specifically, but I am, for probably the last like decade or so, I've been very big on the not like counting calories so much, but like counting the chemicals kind of a thing. Like if I can't pronounce it, then I'm like, I don't want to eat that shit. But and I don't know where. I think Paul Chek, if anyone knows who that is, Paul Chek, he's like, he's a cool dude, but he talks a lot about, like the importance of eating like whole foods. And I mean, there's just like research, you know?
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's an excellent point. And thank you for bringing it up. Like, I wonder how many of our health problems can be related back to all of the pesticides, like the hormones, the chemicals, like all the shit that goes into it. And I wanted to go ahead.
I would think too, like with the toxic dieting fads, with these quick fixes, with the apple cider vinegar diets, with the meal replacement diets, like, this is a conspiracy theory, we talked about this. What if all of those diets and all of those meal replacement diets, the ones that are really like, drink these for a month, lose 40 pounds, really just kind of get you, it's a cycle. Your body just never is able to, like, if it messes up something within yourself internally, and then it just makes you always have to rely on that sort of toxic diet fad or toxic diet product, because your body, I mean, I don't know, that's just me thinking, like, but I think it is cyclical in nature. Like, give you the thing to make you lose the weight, but also once you go back into the world where it's like the real world, like when I went to weight loss camp, I was in a controlled environment. Was I eating like non-processed foods? Yes, I was also eating less than 1,200 calories a day, less than 20 grams of fat a day. I was also eating those little SnackWells, 100-calorie snacks. I was eating the Fig Newton 100-calorie snacks. I was eating fat-free potato chips. That shouldn't be a thing, but it was. Fat-free potato chips, which has Olestra in it. And Olestra is like banned, but I was eating that because that was like the product to eat. Now it's banned, but when I went out into the real world, outside of this controlled environment where I was being fed exactly what I needed to be fed, and also all these different like snacks that are healthy, my body just went bizarre, gained all the way back and more, and that was a cycle, and it's a cycle I've lived for several years, and I think a lot of people have lived. If you have engaged in sort of, if you've had to lose a lot of weight, and like that, in my experience, because I had a lot of weight to lose and I lost it very quickly using a fad diet, it just propelled me into that negative cycle. So
CS Phoenix had shared, to a testament to what you were saying, regarding the damage that the toxic diet culture has on our bodies. That, I wouldn't doubt it. Her dietitian told me that my Alejandro, something could have developed from the damage that I did to my body. So yeah, I don't know what Alejandro is, but something apparently could have developed. And yeah, thank you for sharing. And then Joe says that he's sure that those things are loaded with crazy stuff. Yeah, like, and it's something that, so we asked as well. I want to talk about like another, allergies. Okay, yeah, your allergies could have developed some damage. I wonder, thank you for sharing and for updating. I was like, I don't know. This is kind of like Mad Libs. I was like, do what?
I was like, who's Alejandro?
Yeah, I was like, who is this? Who is this person? But yeah, so one of the questions that we asked as well was, how much money have you spent to alter your body to be either smaller or larger or to look a certain way? And we included, bring this up now because we included diet foods and or plans, meal shakes, weight loss attempts, pills, body enhancements. Those were like the examples that we put. I didn't include, or we didn't include like gym memberships and that kind of a thing, because I think that I didn't want to like skew it. Like, not everyone goes to the gym for like that purpose.
I don't think gyms, because gyms aren't, and I've had to get to that space. Like, gyms aren't just meant for losing weight. But I agree on that. Yeah. And I know I've said openly that I've definitely spent more than $10,000.
So 14% said they've spent more than $10,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Which is a lot of money.
And this is a $3 billion industry. So
yeah. Well, so 14% said over 10%. 21% said in the thousands. Another 21% said none, which I'm like, that's interesting, right? Good for you. I was like, what? Who are these people?
Saved a lot of money. Proud of you.
Right. The majority, 44%, said between 1 and 1,000.
Yeah. I wish that I wish I wouldn't have spent $1, but I did.
Right.
And I still have not recently, but like there have been multiple times where I'm like, I've spent $300 on, I told you, I think I spent, I don't even know how much money on, weight loss camp in itself was expensive, obviously. And that backfired, which there's a lot of like, what's so cool, not so cool. But what is interesting about the fat camps or the fat farms, literally what they were called,
Oh my God.
a lot of like families, because it was such a big thing. When I posted my TikTok on that and it blew up, I had a lot of people come out of the woodworks and they were like, I went to a camp like that too. My family took out a second mortgage or like
what?
second loan. Like people were taking out loans to pay for their children to go to these camps. But that also happens with the people were going into financial like ruin because they believed the science. They believed what the people were preaching was true. They believed that this was like the end all be all, the holy thing. Like it was gonna become what it needed to become. But it was just so crazy to me because everybody get 70 to 80% of the weight loss. I don't know what it looks like now. This was like really like an article written a long time ago. But the majority of the campers would gain the weight back, and if not more, which is like the Biggest Loser too.
Right.
They did studies on Biggest Loser participants, and 90% of them, I think, don't quote me on that, but it is a very majority percentage of all of those participants gained back that weight and more.
So yeah, for anyone listening, watching, we didn't really talk about it that much on the episode, but Hannah made a TikTok about her experience with fat camp. It did go viral, so you can Google and like learn more, or I can post the link if anyone like wants to read it.
You can go. It's on TikTok somewhere, and then there is a BuzzFeed article out there.
Which is cool. No big deal. Yeah, she was on podcast. Yeah, it was cool.
And that's cool. The toxic diet culture thing is how rude and mean people were to my comments about me going to fat camp at 15 years old. People were just rude. Like I had grown men in the comments, and I'm a grown woman now, but like in that writing that article and like being back and sharing my memories about fat camp, I was 15. Like I was still, and like I know what I felt like when I was 15.
Right.
And grown men in the comments saying, she's just a complainer. She's just a whiner. She don't have discipline. She don't blah, blah, blah. I'm like, goodness gracious.
You should do, that trend now that's like that song that's like things that men said to me when I told them I'm a doctor, or things that men said to me when I told them to put on a condom.
That sound? I did do it. I literally said it was like things people said to me when I told them I like engaged in toxic dieting as a kid.
Oh my gosh. I'll have to go look. I'm not on TikTok that much, but I'll have to go look. I haven't seen that yet, but that's okay. Good. I'm glad that you did that.
I think a toxic diet culture affects people's mindset where they feel like they are experts in providing people nutritious advice and dieting advice. They think that they just know how to tell. Well, just eat less than 1,200 calories, you'll lose the weight. No.
Yeah.
How many times do I have to tell people you do not need to eat that low of calories in order to lose weight? I don't know what doesn't click with people, but it's still deeply ingrained in people's minds.
So that beautiful segue into one of our next question that we asked, what about toxic diet culture has impacted you most, whether it be your mindset or your physical body or both? So like how has it impacted you most? I don't know how I managed to mess up that question, but where has it impacted you the most is the question. And so, between your mindset and your physical body. So 64% said both are equally impacted, which I would say I would be in the 64%, like mind and body both fucked. 21% said my physical body, and 14% said my mindset. And so that was interesting to me because, so like I said, for me, it's both. Like both, I fucked up both. Like I fucked up my metabolism. I binged and purged. I talked about that before. And I also, had this like stigma, like about like the things that I should and like shouldn't do with regards to food and exercise, like in order to morph my body into like looking a certain way. And so, for me, it was both. I was surprised it wasn't more people that said both. And also I was surprised that it wasn't, from that percentage, it wasn't more people to say that it impacted their mindset more than their body.
Mm-hmm.
What was your response to that?
I don't know. I guess it really obviously depends on the person. It depends on your experience with toxic diet culture. I don't know how it could not like just looking at it from like a very like theoretical standpoint. I don't know how it could not affect both, but it
Right.
just your experience. Maybe if you haven't engaged, it could be your experience. It could be how many times you've engaged in toxic diet culture in your life. If you've only ever maybe perceived it and never actually engaged in it,
Mm-hmm.
probably see how it could affect you mentally or affect people physically. Personal, I mean, like I said, I'm only speaking on my personal account. It's affected both because I think that your physical and your mental are very much in line and connected,
Mm-hmm.
which we talked about this. Like when I first came on to you as one of your clients, the reason that I came on is because I was having such difficulty with my body image as a result of dieting. I just came off the keto diet. I'd been on that diet for almost 3 years, and my body was absolutely like ruined. So the physical was there, but it was also just affecting me so mentally because I was not able to lose any more weight. And I'd lost a significant amount of weight because of that diet, but only within the first 5 months of doing that diet. And I stayed on that diet for years, like years later, because I thought, well, this is the only way my body can lose weight. This is the only way my body will be the size it be. And then when I got to a point where it was not serving me anymore, probably because my body was like, what are you doing? And I went to the doctor and I got blood work done, and I realized that I had like hypothyroidism, which I knew my mom's always suspected I had thyroid problems. Um, but I think that keto propelled me further into it. I think it like kickstarted me to get into to having a slower thyroid, which there's like some like research, some preliminary research out there that talks about that, lowering those hormones in your body. And so I also was having really bad breakouts. Like if I looked at sugar, my body like rejected it.
Mm.
I just, that's a miserable life to live. So that's why I came to you to just like learn how to control my thoughts a little bit better and deconstruct a lot of these toxic dieting thoughts and deconstruct a lot of these body issues, like body image issues and constant feeling and need to lose weight and engage in dieting. And that was probably like I gained back like 20 pounds from the 50 pounds I lost off keto. And I thought there was like no way I was ever going to lose that weight again. No way I was ever going to I need to either engage in keto or I need to switch on to the next diet. And we talked and we like worked through the mental and we worked through body acceptance and like body neutrality and like how to reframe your mind to eat foods that are nutrient dense, not because you have to, not because someone's like a diet is telling you can't eat this food and restricting it. And also working through the mindset piece of it all of using like exercise as a form of punishment, not doing that.
Right.
I lost 20 pounds. I didn't even go on a diet. So like that's to me is like that's a physical effect from a mental shift. So and so I think they're very, very much in tune and in line. If your mind is healthy and happy, your body responds the same way because I feel like when I in the like the lowest and like if I'm sad, if I'm mad, if I'm angry, I typically do want to resort to food to soothe me. And a lot of times that food is like food that I binged on because when I was younger and when I was a teenager. And I got binge eating disorder because of my restrictive and toxic diets that I like really restricted a whole entire food group or my calories, and that caused me to binge eat. And so like sometimes I resorted back to that because of some of the things. But when I changed some of the mindset shifts, I don't think I became the healthiest version of myself in that instance. And I know when I am not mentally grounded, my body does want to resort back to engaging in behaviors that I know are not serving me in the realm of nourishing my body. I don't know. They're very connected for me.
Yeah, they're very connected for all of us, and thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that because, yeah, like the body keeps the score, and it's something where these are like coping mechanisms that served you long ago and far away. So even though you consciously, know differently now, even though you consciously know, like you said, what foods work for you now, like you've created a better relationship. Whenever, push comes to shove, sometimes it's like, fuck, I just want to, like comfort myself with these foods, because whenever we eat, chemicals are created in our brains. And so, yeah, like it does make us feel better. Like it is comforting. Mm-hmm. And, I think that it's really cool that you have been able to share your story in this capacity. Like, who would have thought, like, years later, you would be sharing your story and helping so many people talk about, like, through talking about your experience personally with Fat Camp, and, now here talking to anyone and everyone listening about how toxic it can be, so that people can hopefully feel validated in their own experience and in their own thoughts. And we're going to share some tips later. And we also do in the episode on how you can start to create a healthy relationship with food. And so I'm just so proud. I am just like, I could not be more proud of you and everything that you are doing and will do. And can we spoiler alert, like what you're writing?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't like written in so long. And a lot of it's like, so I started to write a book on kind of like a lot of things that as a teenager and child I dealt with in terms of like body image issues, self-esteem, and its like effect on me in a lot of ways, and a lot of like self-hatred I carried around my body and shame in myself for the longest time as a child and as a teenager. And just how I haven't written, and I think that I haven't written much about like dieting and like that's role in my life, and all the different challenges that I have had with that. So maybe I should put that in there. It was more focused on the what I've been writing is more focused on a different side of my story, but I think that could also be a big part of it too, because it resonated with a lot of people. When I think it's funny, I post on TikTok, and when I tell people that I'm not trying to be, I mean, maybe I am trying to be an influencer, but maybe it's in a different capacity, because a lot of the things I talk about are things that have brought me a lot of shame in my life, but I've learned over the past couple of years to like release that shame and open up parts of myself that I used to be embarrassed about. And one of those things being going to Fat Camp as a kid, or always on a diet, because I felt like when you told people you're on a diet, you never wanted to tell people. It was always like a shame for me to say, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, because then everybody wanted to give their 2 cents on how to do it. Or everybody wanted to say, oh, which diet are you doing? Or you wasn't successful in that diet, because let's be honest, there's research that shows most people who engage in these dieting fads, in restrictive eating, it doesn't work for them, especially if you have a significant amount of weight to lose. Yeah. It typically does not work for them. And it certainly did not work for me. And it's certainly, like we talked about in the episode, the research that supports when you do engage in some of these restrictive dieting with a lot of significant amount of weight to lose, especially in those teenage years, it only propels you into a life where that is a cycle for you of always having to either you're going to gain weight or you're trying to lose it back rapidly. I mean, that can't be good for your health. And it can't be for, actually finding balance and peace in your body and in your size.
Yeah, and in your mind, like taking it back to that, like that can't be that like yo-yo, like it's always like how exhausting to we're dieting now, oh it's back, like how exhausting. And so which I don't know how you keep doing this, but great segue into one of our next questions, which was how many fad diets have you tried? And so the examples were everything from like the Whole30 and like paleo, because let's be honest, like those are fads, and Atkins, if anyone remembers that, which was like I think 28 grams of carbs or less a day is like what that was, if I'm not mistaken, which was like crazy.
I don't know if I ever strictly did Atkins, but I definitely did like eat their bars when I was on keto, because I desperately wanted to eat something sweet, and keto, no sugar, no carbs. So I did get creative on that diet. I made some disgusting desserts and made my family eat them. They were also negatively affected by toxic diet culture, because I was engaging in a diet probably every 6 months. I was like, well, I ate this dessert. And they're like, My stepdad has heart issues, and I would make a keto meal, and it's just straight fat, just straight
Hmm.
like 700 calories, like 1,000 calorie meal of just straight butter and cheese.
Yeah.
He's like, this
Yeah.
tastes great, but I have heart issues. I'm like,
Yeah.
my diet, it's just so crazy to me. But yeah,
We also keto was one of the ones that we mentioned as well. So pretty much any fad diet. And we spoke about just to speak to that. Yeah, like I remember looking whenever keto like came out, I knew someone who was like jacked and did keto. And I was like, maybe I should try it. And I remember looking at like and trying it and like seeing like exactly what you said, like what all you can eat, and it's just like straight fat. So what has worked for me is a concept called metabolic typing. You can look it up. William Wolcott, did some research on it, and it's essentially saying that we all have different metabolic types. That's why like some diets work for you, they won't work for me, vice versa. And so that has been what's worked for me. I've seen it work for others, and it's essentially just like eat according to like what your type is. Like it's not saying that like this is the type. It's saying figure out what your type is and then eat accordingly, and make sure that you check every once in a while to see if your type has changed, because our bodies change as we go through different stages and phases and age and that kind of thing. So knowing that, what my type was when I checked that out, it's not a lot of fat. I actually eat more than like they recommend, because I take that, but like I make it my own. And it's a lot of protein. And so whenever I like looked at keto, I feel like I tried it for like maybe a day or two, and I was like about to pass out during my workouts. Like I
yeah,
felt like I was gonna vomit. Like
yeah. I
I don't do good with high fat.
let me just confess. I was like that keto person that was like the worst to be around. And I recognize that now. I repent and I pray for forgiveness every day. But I like all the time I would look at my and I oh, it was so bad. I had to do a lot of reflection on this. But like I would see my family and friends and like I'm like, I ate keto, I lost all this weight. And you look like an expert when you lose a lot of weight, but like
Right.
people don't recognize that the way that I went about doing it was not healthy. But I seem like an expert. So I would tell people, oh, yeah, I did keto. Like, sugar is the devil. Sugar is the worst for you. You shouldn't eat bread. You shouldn't eat sugar. You should eat this way. And I was like, and I was mean. I was like, I went to a trip with my friends and I got mad at them because they wouldn't go to a place that had the right bacon for me to eat.
Oh my God. Well, you were probably so mean because you didn't have any carbs.
My best friend was like, you need to really check yourself. And I was like, oh,
You were probably just pissed and sad.
I
That's why people on diets are so angry. Like when I
different.
started, yeah, when I started fueling my body appropriately, I was like, damn, no wonder I was a cranky bitch. Like,
Yeah.
no wonder I had anger issues. Like, I was probably just hungry. And
Yeah.
Joe said, same here. A friend told me about it at the gym, but it definitely didn't work for me. So, yeah, the keto. So, how many fad diets have people tried? 40% said none, which I was like, what? Wait, is that right? Is that the right one? Hold on. How many people? Yeah, 40% said none. 33 said a handful. 13% for both all of them and just one of them,
Mm,
which I thought was interesting.
interesting data.
Right? Right? I thought that was interesting. I was like, none, 40%. That's a lot.
Can I make some phone calls to people? Just kidding.
Right? I
Listen,
thought that, yeah,
I'm
I
gonna,
mean,
I'm
good
gonna,
for you.
I definitely, I don't even know. Weight Watchers, Atkins, LA Weight Loss, Metabolic Effect, Keto. I don't even know. I don't know.
Yeah. Mine's been like a handful. I've done paleo, the whole 30.
I think I've done that.
I tried Atkins. I did so there's something called the negative calorie diet, which I feel like, did I tell you about this?
Yeah, like eating a stalk of celery.
Yeah. So yes,
It takes energy to consume it than the actual caloric count.
yes, which is crazy. So like, what the fuck are you running on?
Yeah.
Fumes? Like air?
I don't even understand. There's so many diets out there. Like I was looking up like the history of fad diets.
Yes, because that was one of the questions. So one of the questions we asked what questions you had about toxic diet culture, and these are kind of like two. These are two of the same. So one person says, who the heck makes this stuff up? Isn't it all just BS? And someone said, what is the real root of this culture? So yeah, go ahead, share your research.
This is like a cool little like graphic, but it's called The History of Fad Diets. And it was like 500 BC. The Olympic athletes started some fad dieting. Then there was a cabbage and urine diet.
What?
Yeah, Cato's one of the philosophers. Let's see. Arsenic diet.
I remember hearing about that.
In the 1800s. Also, looks like 1880 was the high-fat, low-carb diet in Germany. A vinegar diet. No breakfast and raw food diet. The chew and spit diet. Interesting.
That sounds like some disordered eating if I ever heard any.
I feel early 1900s, the tapeworm diet. I have heard of that one. Just like, why do we collectively, like the things we do to lose weight? I'm like, oh my God. Cabbage soup diet, grapefruit diet. I've heard of that one.
Wasn't that like the 80s?
Yes. The sleeping beauty diet. This is when people would sedate themselves so they would eat less.
What?
Yeah. They would like go to bed more or sedate themselves. And
I don't need help with that. I need help with the opposite.
I'm like, what is wrong? Why are we doing this? And then yeah.
So okay, so that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. We hadn't talked about that. What my thought is that it probably came from, like people seeing other people perform or get some sort of accolades and being like, I want that. What did you do? And then assuming that it's coming from, like their aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then with that, I would assume that some marketer probably picked up on it and just ran straight into 2022. Like,
it's like what fitness people do a lot of days, like a lot of times. Like, I'm not saying all. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad out there with anything. But like, I've followed fitness accounts before where they sell their fitness, they sell their food plan, they sell their workout. Mm-hmm. You want a body like this, eat like this. And you go and look at the food plan, and you're like, okay, I'll eat just like them. My body does not respond the way their body does. So, and I think it's just like understanding that it's no one size fit all approach to how you should eat. I've definitely engaged in I've bought that material before and been like, I tried to eat just like them, but I didn't lose weight. I maybe lost 5 pounds and then my body just went no. Probably because those were like 1,200 calorie diets.
Yeah. And so same about like the workouts. We talked about this like on like one of the very first episodes where we talked about like, movement in your body or food and mood. And it was about how people will be like, oh, I do this workout with resistance bands, get a body like mine. And I'm like, bitch, you did not get that. You might use resistance bands, but that is not where that came from. Like, what? And so, I think that you were right. Like, it's kind of one of those things where they go hand in hand. I think that there's a lot of overlap because we're like, well, you need both. And I'm glad that there has been more conversation about the importance of food, not as a way to, make your body look a certain way, but as a way to fuel your body and nourish your body so that you can do life, whatever that looks like for you, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a parent, whether you are an employee, like whether you're all of the above, whatever, like just fueling your body so that you can be in a healthy state where you're present and alert and able to show up and able to literally just do life. And so I'm glad that like more has been coming to the forefront about that. And whenever we ask people as well, what is some shit that they wish someone would have told them about toxic diet culture, we had some similar responses. And so I'm going to share some of those now. Number one, someone said, it impacts everyone. Have grace with yourself and others as you are learning to let it go, which I thought was really beautiful. It exists in more than just the media. It's at home, it's in school, and it's also in quote unquote safe spaces, which I think is important to point out as well, because yeah, we oftentimes, and this is, I think, kind of like what we've touched on. It's not that, all people are bad, or we're not like talking shit or anything like that, but I think that we've all been conditioned to think that like a certain way is right. And so we therefore spread that information, and that might not necessarily be true or right for everyone. Um, Someone else shared that I realized early that the diets are not about health, they are about money. Most supporting data is skewed, which we talked about in the very beginning of this conversation. Someone else shared, trust your instincts. If it's too good to be true, chances are it's fake, which I think is true when it comes to what you were sharing earlier about lose 10 pounds in 20 days, or like whatever the case may be. Someone said, I love this. The societal beauty standards are bullshit. Yes, they are. And someone else said that it's all MySpace angles and lighting, which throwback to the MySpace. But
MySpace angles was just like from up, like the tallest part of the room.
Yeah, like as far as my arm will reach, and also with MySpace angles, the blurry like camera resolution. Now it's like Photoshop and like retouching, which the apps that do that, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, there are crazy the things that you can do with those apps.
You can retouch videos.
You can like make me a different person.
Yeah, like I'm there. That's why I'm posting like the new series on my TikTok of like big girls can work out too, because I can. I'm a bigger girl. I have literally always been a bigger girl. Like that is who I am. I accept it. And I think a lot of people, when I open my mouth and talk about dieting, they don't want to hear it from me. But I'm like, look, I've lived, breathed, eat it, all the things. I've done it all. And I like read about it, but not read about it. I research. I actually like, I don't know. Anyways, it's like a side hobby for me. But posting about my body and being able to do a workout and like, here's all of the different, angles. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do not look perfect working out, nor do I look perfect sitting at a desk. I look like a hunched over gremlin, and I know I do. That's a
gremlin. Thank you for that. Yeah, like it's a cool series. So anyone who's not already following Hannah, go over and do that. TikTok is where she's most active. Same screen name, and I will link it. Well, it's linked if you listen to the podcast or if you watch on YouTube. But yeah, like I love that series. Do you post those on here too? Have you seen them on
here? Not as much.
Some. I feel like I've seen some in like the stories maybe.
Good. I was working on one because I worked out yesterday, and it's probably the worst angled one. And I'm like very hesitant to post it, but I'm like, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And one other person had said, trust your body when it comes to toxic diet culture, which I think is also important.
I was looking at this article, and like I actually have it pulled up, and somebody was talking about like what is the current diet mindset of Americans. And hope you don't mind me sharing, but it's talking about we pretty much continue to beat ourselves up and believe, 1, it is impossible to be fit and fat at the same time. 2, all large people must lose weight in order to improve their health and fitness level. 3, all large people are in poor health. 4, everyone can lose weight if they just follow the proper diet and regular exercise program. 5, the main reason people regain lost weight is their failure to comply with prescribed diets or make long-term commitments to weight loss. And he referenced a book called Bad Science that talks about we have somehow become collectively obsessed with these absurd, thinly evidenced individual tinkerings in diet, distracting us from simple, healthy eating advice. But more than that, as we saw, distracting us from other important lifestyle risks for ill health that cannot be sold or commodified. Like, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I love that. CS Phoenix says you're a beautiful badass.
Thank you.
She is. We had another question that we haven't touched on, and I want us to make sure, like you are excellent. And it was, what do you think is the first step in overcoming toxic diet culture? Do you want to take this first?
Obviously I can speak for myself, but I think that the way that I approach it now, because I have a lot of people that come to me, I won't say a lot, but I have a lot of people that trust me in talking about these kind of things. Family and friends and even people on TikTok ask me questions. And I always lead with number one. I'm not a nutritionist or dietitian, so please don't look for medical advice from me. But I will say, I always tell them, I'm like, you've got to figure out your own body. You've got to understand how your body works. And you can't assume that a diet that you see online is going to work for you.
Right.
Or you've got to just eat foods that you think that feel good to you to eat. And it's okay to understand that, like, eating something bad doesn't make you bad. Doesn't mean that you're unhealthy. Doesn't mean that you are going to gain all your weight back if you have weight to lose. Also, taking over or getting rid of or deconstructing, I'll say, this bad versus good food. Because food is food. Food it's there to serve a purpose. It's there to do what it's supposed to do. But some foods your body may respond better to. Some foods your body may not. And just understanding that. Two, I think another big thing is overcoming diet culture is investigating and leaning into why you feel that you need to change your body so much, so all the time. Like, who is telling you that? Why are they telling you that? Where are you getting that information from? If it's truly because of some sort of medical issue, like, consult with your doctor, consult with a nutritionist, consult with a dietitian. But if it's something where you're like, I don't feel good enough, I don't feel worthy enough, I don't feel all these different things, investigate that a little bit. Because I think when I started to really work on my mental side of like how I talk to myself, how I work with myself, all these different things, I think that is what helped me launch me into understanding and like looking at food and exercise in a way that was like, I was excited about. I was excited to eat a big ass salad, not because I felt like I needed to eat that salad to lose weight, but because like how that salad made me feel. And I'm not saying you gotta eat a salad. It could be a cheeseburger. Who cares? But just understanding that and understanding how just finding excitement back in the way that you eat and in the way that you live, and not feeling so much dread around like, because let's be honest, no one's excited to go on a diet. No one is excited about it. It's like one of those things, like you roll your eyes, you're like, oh, gotta go back online. I wish you just become a person of like a version of yourself that you're not exactly really happy with. And I would say do your research too. If it like that person said, if it looks too good to be true, it likely is. If it's a quick fix, it's telling you that if you pay this 30-month installment of this much money, you'll lose the weight. Probably not. Probably not going to work. If it guarantees you you're going to lose weight very quickly, you may lose the weight very quickly if you buy that product. But you also, more than likely, research shows you're probably going to get it back and more. And there's a lot of shame, and I've been there, about gaining weight back after you lost a significant amount. It feels like crap, and it makes you feel like crap, and it makes you feel like helpless. And that's the worst feeling to have. Versus now, I've lost a lot of weight, and my body fluctuates in weight. Like, I'll gain 10 pounds, and then I'll lose, and I'll gain. And it's like, but I've learned to become comfortable with that and understanding my body is going to fluctuate. And my body is going to, as long as it's feeling good, as long as I am happy, as long as I am working out and exercising and feeling strong in myself, then what else matters? Like, why else does it matter if I lose another 30, 40 pounds? For who am I doing that for? So that is what I will say. And hopefully a little bit of advice. I wish I had like a 10-step guideline. Maybe I'll work on that. Or TikTok.
Yeah.
Follow me on TikTok.
Yeah, I like that. And thank you for sharing that. I feel so what do you think is the first step in overcoming toxic diet culture? For me, I would say awareness. I think awareness is the first step in a lot of things. And I think that, like we spoke whenever we first like hopped on the after party for our conversation today, it's that so many of us are existing within this system, within this way of thinking, that we aren't present to the fact that we're following that script.
Yeah.
And so it's something where whenever you become aware of like, oh, this is the program that's running, this is the program that I'm operating in, then you're empowered to say, hey, like, I see like what this program is, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Yeah. I want to write my own program. And like you said, I want to learn, what works for me. I want to recognize that, hey, like, it's not my fault that I have, thought that I should and shouldn't like eat these things for so long, or, you know, work out, you know, to punish myself, or whatever you may think. It's not your fault that you think that. It comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
And as soon as you realize that, I think that that is the first step to overcoming it, because then you have the awareness to say like, oh, that's not mine. Like, that's not my fault, or that's not my thought. That's not what I want my thought to be. That's someone else's that has been like playing in the background. And so I would say that's step number one. And then step number two is, like you mentioned, to not to copy your answer, but like you mentioned, like figuring out what it is that works for you. Mm-hmm. And that's not something that you're going to be able to, you know, try like, you know, this like one thing. And I mean, maybe you will. Maybe like the first thing you try will be like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. Maybe you know enough about yourself that you're able to do that. But for most of us, it's going to be this constant process that's going to be evolving from the moment you realize and become aware that, hey, like I've been operating in this, you know, toxic diet culture program mm-hmm. or system, whatever you want to call it. That's gonna be the catalyst for this evolution that you are now going to be in for likely the rest of time, where you are constantly constantly working towards learning more about your body and like what works for you, and you know what you want to do. Like, I think that, and I've spoken about this before. Like for a long time, I was like, well, I should, you know, eat these things and I should like reward myself with that. Like people, you know, like cupcakes. People are like, you know, have a cupcake. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll have a fucking cupcake. I don't like cupcakes. I don't like sweets. I just don't. I don't know why. I just don't. But if you put a pizza, like you could leave a cheesecake in my fridge, it would be super safe. Like Fort Knox. Like I'm not going to touch it. But if you leave a pizza, I cannot promise that any of it will be here. Like, so knowing like that about yourself, knowing like, you know, what it is that you enjoy and what it is that like makes your body feel good. Like I mentioned as well, like keto, I was like, did not work for me. Like lots of high fat things do not work for me. Yeah. Like, can I have them throughout the day? Yes. But like, is that all I could eat? Not at all. Like,
I made a Instagram called Keto Conmigo. Yeah. It was a weight loss Instagram.
I didn't know that.
It's still active. I mean, I don't know the login. I can't get in there anymore, but it's still active.
Oh my God. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
I was when I was keto. If you knew me in that time period, I'm sorry. I apologize. Please forgive me.
That's hilarious. Okay. This has been awesome. Do you have any final thoughts before we go into some questions to get to know you a little bit better? And then we'll wrap it up from there.
Nope, I don't.
Okay, cool. And yeah, if anyone listening, watching, you're still with us, let us know if you have any questions, because we're going to do a little get to know Hannah segment. And then we will wrap it up from there. So, all right, ma'am, are you ready? I'm excited for this. Okay. So first question, these are rapid-ish fire questions. So what is a life hack you wish you knew sooner?
Life hack? Oh God, yeah. I'm not good at this.
I was like, you know lots of life hacks. Yeah.
I don't even know, Jonna. Life hack. Ooh, give me an example.
Like the TikTok hacks. I can't think of any right now. But like the one where it's
I'll tell you a hack, but I'll tell you my lesson learned.
Okay.
So I thought, avocados, they go right in the middle of the night, and you're so disappointed when you wake up and you want the avocado because it's already bad.
In the middle of the night?
I'm just, making that meme.
Oh, I was like, is that real?
2 a.m. when I really, So anyways, I saw a TikTok. This is don't believe every life hack you see on TikTok. This is a warning. I saw a TikTok on how to preserve avocado in water. But Brandy just joined. I'm sorry. And I told my best friend about this, and we preserved our avocados in water. But then, 3 or 4 weeks later, I watched this other video, and I researched it. Then I was like, let me do a little bit of research, because it was don't store your avocados in water. There's bacteria that will get into your avocado and make you sick. I was like, oh no. So I told my best friend, and she's like, ever since I started doing that, I started to feel sick after eating avocados. I was like, and I think I ruined avocados for my best friend. So that's not a life hack, but it is a life hack I learned. And you should just be cautious.
I think that's a good life hack. I've seen that.
Great. I apologize. So that I don't do life hacks now. I just kind of like, okay, I'll take
Well,
it the hard way because I'm gonna give somebody freaking whatever it is.
so I've seen that hack, and I'm like, ooh, let me try it, but I haven't yet because I'm a Pisces, and I do the thing where like I'm gonna do it, and then I don't. That's a long list for me. But I think that's a life hack. Don't believe all the TikTok hacks that you research. Google the TikTok hacks before you.
At this point, it's better than putting it in water and eating it.
Like, okay, so another one was that quesadilla thing where you like put it in the corner and then like fold it up,
Oh
like
yeah,
where you cut it. That was some bullshit for me because I'm like, I need more stuff in this.
yeah.
Like, what do you put like a shred of cheese per slice? Like you can't fold it. Anyway, okay. So that's a good life hack, I believe, is to research your hacks, research your TikTok hacks before you actually try them. I think that's a great one. Like that, this balsamic vinegar and soda seltzer tastes
Oh
like Coke.
no,
Did you
that's
try that?
diet culture. I will say like red flag.
Yeah, I
Go
watched.
Diet Coke. Like don't drink balsamic vinegar and freaking seltzer water and it
I
tastes like Diet Coke. No, it does not.
I watched this guy BD Carpenter. He's like a fitness guy. And he like shows videos. Like I like his account, but he was like, he had a funny response to it. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, "No, like don't do this." Okay, so we got the life hack one. So okay, next question is, what's an awesome book that you wish someone would have told you about sooner?
Awesome book.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Johnny, you're getting me with questions that I don't know how to answer, and then people are going to be like, God, this girl don't know anything. I feel like nobody tells me about books.
But you read a lot.
I read a lot, but I just like go and just investigate. My friend
So
just
what's a recommended one?
recommended one. Well, I'm about to go see Where the Crawdads Sing, but then I also recognize so that I did like that book, but I think the author is a little problematic, but the book is good.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go see the movie because it's based
Okay.
on Carolina Marshes.
Is it based on what? Oh, in here?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, do a TikTok and let us know what your review is on that.
Okay.
I've never. Is that fiction, nonfiction?
It's fiction. It's a good book. It's
I'm a
interesting.
big I'm a big nonfiction person. So I don't read anything for fun really. I'm reading the books I'm reading now. They're not light reads. I'm reading It Didn't Start With You and Immunity to Change. I'm doing like a tandem situation.
Hmm.
I recommend so far. But my full book, my TikTok, I'll do a book review for my TikTok. I'll do that. I'll do it. So you do one for Where the Crawdads Sing, and I'll do one for these books. Okay. Name a feel good go to thing that everyone needs to know.
Feel good go to thing that everyone needs to know.
Hmm.
It's so subjective. For me, a feel good go to thing is if you can just finding like the cutest little coffee shop in your neighborhood, going and sitting there and getting like I used to not do that. I used to deny myself like a latte and a scone or like a pastry because it didn't fit within my diet. And
Hmm.
that's a feel good go to thing for me. Every Friday I go and do and I sit. It feels really good. And
So
it's a Friday routine for me.
I saw where you were today, and I was like, number one, where is that? And number two, yeah, you inspired me. I was like, I should go out and like work from coffee shops more, like, or period. Like I don't, but yeah, okay, we love that. I think that is a great go-to thing. You're right, it is subjective, but that's your go-to thing, and so thank you for sharing. Um, so this is something I usually ask like colleagues, but since you are someone who has a photography business and videography business, what do you wish that all clients knew before working with you?
I'm a little all over the place and I apologize. Um, but I do really care about my clients and I care about people that I work with, people that I serve in whatever capacity that may be. I just can be a little bit scatterbrained sometimes.
Hmm.
But I think
Hmm.
that just leans me, I do a good job when I'm in it. I do a good job, it helps me be a little bit more creative because I'm not super structured.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you think that you have ADHD?
I don't know. I think I'm just disorganized.
Interesting. Okay, I have self-diagnosed myself, so I'm asking. That was not a rapid fire question, but that was just a curious question. So, okay, this next question is fun. So, what is something in your life today that you get really excited about that younger Hannah would be looking at you like, no, like shaking my damn head? Like, what? So, for example, for me, nonstick cookware,
That's a good one.
right?
Uh, I love a good vacuum cleaner. I do.
Yeah.
You know, like
Huh.
a cordless one. I need a new one. I've been looking. I've been like investigating which one do I want. That excites me, and like stuff to organize my house with. Like I just said, I'm very scatterbrained and like I can be tend to be disorganized. But I'm not the best. I'm not gonna sit out here. I'm not the most organized person. But I do get excited when I get things that help me become that way.
Hmm.
And like
Hmm.
younger self me would have been like, absolutely not.
I mean, the vacuum cleaner is funny to me, but someone said insults. Steven said insults, like shoe insoles.
Insoles.
Shoes. That also made me laugh.
That's a good one.
Um, but yeah, vacuum cleaners. Okay, I love this question so much because I'm just kind of like, who would have thought? Like 10 years ago, younger Hannah would have not been like, that vacuum cleaner. You know what else? This is a total like sidebar. Um, Box cutters.
Ooh.
Like I worked in retail and like a nice box cutter. Whoever thought that I would get so jazzed about that? I used it today. Like I got one because I was like, I did the ordering and I was like, damn, this is a nice box cutter. And sure enough, like, yeah. So that's another thing. Okay, last question for the rapid fire ish. If you could tell everyone just one thing that is some shit that you wish someone told you about anything, what would it be?
Like in general.
Just anything you wish that someone would have told you.
Um, it's like how to budget better.
Mm. Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
financially not the best, but also I was really good. I mean, but you know what? At least I had 17,000 geometry classes.
That's a good. Someone else, I believe, said something about money. Yeah, just like finances, like financial, like hygiene or financial literacy. So yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
I,
that's.
like I have 2 master's degrees,
Hmm.
but I don't know how to budget.
Hmm.
Because like I just like I've taken a lot of classes on like art and literature, and I like them. They're good classes. They make you think. I think they build critical thinking skills. But also, I wish that I was required to have taken a financial literacy class in high
Hmm.
school or college. But
Well, they probably don't. They don't want you to know how to do that.
they don't want
With
you.
it. Yeah.
Then they'll be like, "Oh, college is a scam." I had, I can't do any like work with my hands, so I had to go to college.
That. Okay. Cool. All right. So, where can they find you, and what do you have going on?
You can find me on Instagram. My
Hmm.
Instagram's a little bit more just like I'm not as fun on here. Sometimes I post fun in stories and TikTok. I do I do stuff on TikTok. I post like fitness stuff on there. I post little vlogs. I post things about like just like solo travels I love to do, traveling, all the things. I just post what my mind feels like it should post and then hope people don't think that I'm crazy.
Well, no one thinks that you're crazy. Yeah, and it's the same name, Hannah Elise, Alysee. Hannah with an H, Hannah.
Yes, please put the H on the end.
Yeah.
Don't.
I searched for you on something the other day, and I was like, oh, that is not her. Um, I think it was yesterday, but yeah, I almost made a new friend. So thank you for being here. I will make sure to link your Instagram account here. I'll also link the photography one if you would like. I'll put that there as well in the description for anyone that is interested in seeing the creativity over there on that side, and for anyone who might need photos. Um, and then if you want to, yeah, find her on the TikToks, and also what a boomer, the TikToks. And that is also linked in YouTube and in the podcast, wherever you like to listen. Thank you so much for being here and for having this conversation. I know we've been a little over, but I feel like it was all good stuff, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here and for inviting me on to your channel. These are things I'm passionate talking about. Like I said, if you ever want to talk to me about it, I talk to about my experience with toxic dieting and how I work through it daily, because I still do. And yeah, we're just talking about all sorts of things. Yeah, I like to talk.
So slide into our DMs, slide into my DMs. If anything, let us know. And then, so on Monday, the episode, just to share what that's going to be about, I believe it's going to be a solo episode. And I'm going to talk about the fact that it doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. Because that came to me today while I was working out. Because I was going to also possibly talk about abortion. Should I wish someone to talk about abortion? I mean, I might do either or. But yeah. I mean, hell, maybe I'll do both, but just at different times. And so they're both topics that I feel I wish someone would have told me more about. But considering our current state of affairs, one might get priority over the other. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to Monday. And yeah, if you have a preference between now and then, slide into my DMs, because I haven't quite decided just yet. But yeah, anyway, thank you for being here. I will talk to you soon. Thank you everyone for watching. Share this with someone that will also find it valuable, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.